أعزائي المشاهدين، أسعد الله مساءكم بكل الخير. Good evening وألف تحية ومرحبا بكم في هذه الحلقة الجديدة من برنامجكم الأسبوعي Community Issues. طبعا زي ما تعودتوا على برنامجنا احنا بنناقش القضايا اللي بتهم الجالية، وإنه we always bring distinguished guests، ناس عندهم خبرة طويلة في مجال خدمة الجالية، سواء على المستوى الوظيفي أو على المستوى التطوعي. ضيفتي اليوم يعني يمكن من أصعب اللحظات اللي تقديم الضيوف اللي بواجهها مع هذه ضيفتي، اللي هي يعني متعددة المواهب، لها أكثر من مركز، ويعني لي الفخر حقيقة أن تكون سيدة عربية وشرق أوسطية بهذه المؤهلات وهذه المواهب. هي طبعا لها 4 تايتلز، ولكني أرى كأن يعني بدي أطلق عليها اسم جديد، هو كمزارعة اللي هي تنثر البذور في أكثر من حقل وأكثر من برنامج، حتى هذه البذور يجي عليها مطر وتنمو، وبالتالي الناس تتبارك من هذا العمل الرائع. ضيفتي في هذا اليوم هي يعني سيدة معروفة جدا في الجالية، ومن اللي لهم دور وباع طويل في عملية جسر الهوة ما بين كمجتمع عربي شرق أوسطي والمجتمع الأمريكي الكبير هنا في الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية. ضيفتي هي السيدة سهام عواضة جعفر، اللي زي ما حكيت لكم أعزائي المشاهدين في لها أكثر من she's wearing more than one hat، ولكن أكثر شيء أحب يعني، وهي يمكن بتحب لأن هي لما أعطتني الكرت تبعها إنه تقدم نفسها بأنها هي الفاوندر لكونفرنس Images and Perception Diversity Conference، اللي يعني كل الاسم فيه جاذبية، والأهم من هذا الشيء إنه ماذا بداخله من عمل لجسر الهوية والتعريف فينا في ثقافتنا وفي ما نقدمه كعرب كشرق أوسطيين في هذا البلد الأم الثاني. سيدتي ألف تحية وأهلا وسهلا فيك في هذا.
أهلا فيك، شكرا كثير.
الله يخليك. عجبك أن نسميك مزارعة تنثري بذور الخير.
شكرا، الحمد لله.
العفو لك. You know, try to be bilingual. I want to ask you this question. We did sort of focus group، يعني عملنا زي questionnaire actually، وسألنا 113 مواطن. We called them by phone and we asked them this question, talking about diversity and what we are doing, you know, to show our contribution this mosaic of diversity here. We asked them this question: هل أنت راضي عن دور المؤسسات العربية الدينية والمدنية في جسر الهوة أو to close the gap, you know, between us as American and Middle East people and the mainstream community? The shocking news, Siham, is 103, which is 103 people, they say no, they are not doing what they're supposed to do.
What was your entire sampling?
You know,
103 out of
113.
Oh,
we have 113 people.
113.
103. I mean, this is 91% of people. They say no. Our civil and religious organizations, they are not doing what they're supposed to do to bridge or to close the gap between us and the Arab, our other mainstream communities. Somewhat, some people they say 5, which is 4.4%. They said somewhat, and 5 they said yes. So talking about 91%, they say no, they're not doing what they're supposed to do. The question is, I mean, what do you think about this picture?
Well, Abdullah, first of all, thank you for having me. And the conversation on diversity is really massive and in different directions. You look at our organizations, whether they be Arab American or Muslim American organizations within the state of Michigan and within our cities, the challenges have been huge, and especially since 9/11, they've increased. And so you have these different organizations who have sort of vied for, their mission and vied for their territory and sort of tried to, provide the services that they need, and have the discussion on diversity. Have they been successful? From your polling, obviously people are a bit dissatisfied in regards to, how things have been brought to fruition. I really think it's important, whatever organization it is, really, they do need our support. That goes without saying. And I think it's very important sometimes to sit back and redefine yourself. And some of the organizations need to sit back and redefine themselves and redefine the process in which they're trying to bring their message across. We have some amazing organizations. We have some amazing mission statements for these organizations. And so redefining who they are and what they need to do is extremely important. And that needs to be done on a continuous basis. Have they done that? Sort of, maybe. Some people will agree, some people will say no. But it's really important to look at your environment, look at the atmosphere, look at the issues that have been happening, and sort of redefine who we are and how we need to function within society. And maybe we need to go back to the drawing board to do that, especially from your poll.
طيب أنا عندي 113 واحد، خليهم يكونوا 114. راح أسألك بالعربي. أنت راضي عن وضع المؤسسات بشكل عام من هذه الناحية؟ هل أنت راضية؟
يعني المؤسسات اللي موجودة يعني عم يشتغلوا، كل واحد بيشتغل حسب بيئته بيقولوا، وهن عم يشتغلوا على هالأساس. في مجال إنه يصيروا أحسن، وفي مجال إنه يعملوا هالشيء ليكونوا يعني more effective. يعني أكيد there's always room for improvement. بس I think كمان يعني بين المؤسسات لازم يكون في عندهم هن ارتفاق إنه يشتغلوا مع بعض. بفتكر هيدا القصة كتير مهمة عنا نحن بالجالية، إن كل واحد يعني نيته طيبة وحابب يشتغل، بس كمان لازم هذا الشيء إنه يشتغلوا مع بعض، بحيث بيقولوا إن إيد وحدة ما بتزقف. بفتكر إذا كان في هالارتفاع، يعني بفتكر نحن كجالية وكمؤسسين يعني بيشتغلوا أحسن وبيقدموا أكتر كمان. So I don't know whether it's cultural, whether it's territorial, بس I think هيدا كتير مهم.
It's like you hold a microscope and you really, from my understand, you really give the right diagnosis. يعني أنت أعطيت التشخيص صح إنه really. And we'll lead to other question. يعني خلينا نسألك السؤال الثاني. So you think we are not united to target the same agenda. So there is no unity within us. يعني إحنا مش متحدين كمؤسسات. أنا بحكي الدينية والمدنية. يعني
I think there's so many objectives and so many missions that sometimes we are muddled between what we're trying to achieve and how we're trying to achieve it. Do I think that the unification process within our community is solid and healthy? Absolutely not. We have so many issues within our community and so many divisions within our community that creates the block for us to move forward. And I really believe that once we have everyone at the table together, looking towards the same mission, looking at the common ground, that all the challenges that we face collectively speaking, I think we would have a better chance of creating that conversation about how to move forward, about ourselves, about our community, about our culture, and about our stand. And I think we all do have the same perspective, but it's creating that safe place where we can all come together and talk about it and move forward. And so I don't think we've found that safe place yet. We're working on it, but I don't think we found it yet.
طب دور مين يعني who's responsible دور مين to really to find the safe place يعني who's responsible to really get us together يعني يجمعنا مع بعضنا يعني
I think we all are. We all have to be responsible for that. I think our leadership needs to be responsible for it. I think we as a community need to you know, be supportive of those who want to bring, you know, the entities together and strengthen those individuals and those organizations that, you know, really do have the premise of working together, because you have so many different issues, and I'm an advocate of having a lot of organizations. I don't think it's a bad idea to have a lot of organizations, to have a lot of initiatives, because we are a large community and there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work to do. But you want quality too, not quantity. And when you have that quality and you have those organizations working together, regardless of whether it's a social services organization or a discrimination organization or whatever organization it is, or a healthcare organization, if you have everyone knowing what the right and left hand is doing, then you for sure have more of an opportunity to be successful on every single level. And are we deficient in that? You know, absolutely. I think we are. Do we have hope? Absolutely. There's always hope. Do we want to make sure that the conversation is always there? And do we want to, as a community, try to bring those people together and say, wait a minute, we're very unhappy with this and we want things to be different? Absolutely. Do we? As often as we should? I'm not sure.
Okay, well, you know, I'm not surprised. You have a very diplomatic answer. So that's what I expected. But I, you know, unfortunately, maybe I did not really get the chance to read about this initiative. But this is the first time I see an organization, they mention in their literature, okay, and they mention their even title, something about diversity. And this is like the 11th annual conference, which is embracing diversity, empowering communities. And I think really, I'm not saying this because you are here, but really, you really have here the process and you have here the mission. And actually what says here like a cultural education.
Mm-hmm.
So we have this, we always say about diversity and we are diverse, and but you know, but we are not trying to celebrate this in a way that really, يعني, to show our contribution, which really make us actually like be noticeable in this map, okay, as a diverse, not only just ethnicity, also a culture really we can do. And I think this is the theme of your previous conference. Can you tell us about this? تحكي لنا عنه شوي.
Absolutely. And I love the word that you use, celebrate. And it is a celebration, because I believe that when you allow different entities, different cultures into your world, you enhance your world. And rather than fearing it, you should allow it to come into your life and celebrate it. The Images and Perceptions Diversity Conference was created back in 2002, and it was a direct result of what happened on 9/11. That was a horrific, tragic event in our history.
That's right.
And I think regardless of what culture you were, what ethnicity you were, living in this country, we all felt violated and we felt angry and we felt, you know, we were all attacked. But what happened afterwards is that going from feeling violated and feeling like, you know, you were very angry at the terrorists, at the perpetrators, through the media and through, you know, everything that was being reported, you woke up one day and thought, oh my God, they think I'm the perpetrator and I'm the terrorist. So that was a very, very, very difficult conversation to have, and it was very, very necessary. So we produced the Images and Perceptions Diversity Conference. It was, back then it was called Images and Perceptions of Arab Americans. Because that was basically the challenge at the time. And we brought different people from different sectors, and most of them were non-Arab. Most of the individuals that we targeted, which are our target audience to come in and listen to the conversation, were non-Arab. We didn't want to sort of preach to the choir, basically. And the conversation about the culture, the conversation about the background, the conversation about who Arab Americans really were, historically speaking, the fact, the contributions, the fact that they are part of the landscape, economically speaking, what the contributions are, and culturally speaking, what that entity really was defined as against the backdrop of the conversation in the media and what was happening. And so there were many individuals who came in skepticals, people that were very, very skeptic, people that didn't want to be there, people that were brought there by different friends. There was one gal who came, and after the conference, and I think it was in like 2005 or 2006, and she was with another individual, and she came up to me and she looked at me and she says, I have hated you for so many years. And I looked at this individual and it was like I couldn't place her, I didn't know her, and I said, I'm sorry, do we know each other? And I'm glad you're here today. And she says, I had family that had perished in one of the towers in 9/11. And she said, I felt like I've been carrying a brick of hatred all these years. She says, but today, I didn't want to be here, but my friend brought me here. And she says, I've been relieved of that hate. She says, you have taken away a burden off my shoulders, because she said, now I have a different perspective. Now I'm seeing things a little bit differently, and I think I understand more of what the landscape is about, rather than just feeling that sense of hatred and listening to what I hear in the media. And that's one of the things we talk about. It's called the need to know factor. You need to know more. You can't just accept what you hear out there. You can't accept what is just superficial. You need to research, and you need to find out what the background is and why things are happening. And we can't put a Band-Aid on something.
That's
you
true.
need to find out, you can't just give someone aspirin. You need to find out why they have a fever. And so that's basically what the concept is.
I really like the things, the images and perceptions, because honestly, you cannot change the way that people see you, and you really show the other side of the story. And going back to how people see us, we had an interview with Mr. Nabi Ayad from the Arab Civil Rights League, and he said that, I don't know according to what study, but our image now and the way our people look at us, even the worst ever. even worse than after September 11. يعني الصورة الناس اللي بتنظر علينا شكلنا it's really سيئة. And the thing is, like, you cannot change this unless you do something, okay? You do something, and especially like talking about education.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, do you do any education, like seminars? Yeah, can you tell us about this?
Absolutely. I actually do diversity training for different corporations and different organizations when I'm called upon, and those conversations are very pertinent. There's a lot of questions. Are all Muslims terrorists? Why are they? Why does it say in the Quran that we can kill people? No, it doesn't. That's so against anything that is Muslim or Islamic. And people don't realize that right now we're dealing with ISIS, and just because of the name, people obviously just assume that this is something Islamic. Well, it's not. These are the most inhumane. Well, they're animals. They're terrorists. They're they are not human beings, much less being Muslims. And so that conversation is very pertinent. In Islam, if you kill a bug or if you hurt one person, it's like hurting humanity.
Yeah,
and so obviously these people are more of a political machine, working under the auspices of a religious entity, and historically speaking, that has been the case. But because of this, yes, our image as Arabs or as Muslims is very, very tarnished, and it's through the conversation, and it's through bringing people to the table, networking, getting to know one another on a different level, which will actually enhance and change the images and perceptions that we've been given. Our organizations do need to step up and create this conversation a lot more. But I think the media has a lot to do with what we're hearing and what we're seeing. And there needs to be a more fair and balanced report about why it's happening, where it's happening, and the underlying. And I go back to you can't give someone an aspirin and just camouflage their fever. You need to know where the fever is coming from. And so people need to educate themselves. And at this conference, it's not, hi, how are you? Let's be nice. Let's agree on everything. Absolutely not. This conference is a place where you might be uncomfortable with the conversation, and that's okay, because unless you see a different perspective, you're not going to be thinking. You're not going to be challenged to think a different way. So this conference actually challenges people to think a different way with the information that they're given. Now, no one's forced to have a different perception, but when you're given the knowledge and when you're given the platform to think differently and to analyze things differently and to do a little bit more research and have that information, you are more able to make create more of an educated opinion for yourself and for others, and you become an ambassador, and that is the primary reason for doing the conference, is to create ambassadors, to create people who go out there and have that conversation that normally people wouldn't hear or wouldn't listen to.
I mean, it seems it's really very interesting, and I'm really planning to come and attend this conference, which we'll be talking about later. Are youth involved in this, Siham? Shabab, are they involved in this initiative? The youth sector? Or
the youth, absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. As a matter of fact, we have volunteers from the Detroit Youth Group who come and work on the conference with us. We encourage some of the students to come in and hear the conversation. But what we do is we concentrate on educators too. We concentrate on educators, we concentrate on administrators, because they are the ones going back to the classroom, and they are the ones who are teaching our youth. And the schools are very much encouraged to come. We offer continuing education credits for anyone that comes in.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Nurses, social workers, therapists, licensed psychologists, and especially educators and administrators, because what they do is they go back to their place of work, to their environment, to their social circles, and they are, again, ambassadors to the conversation. And so they are the ones that are affecting the youth. People who are in healthcare need to understand the cultural variations and need to understand the different interactions, because if your perception of someone's interaction can create a whole different conversation. Law enforcement, we very much encourage law enforcement. For example, when I actually do my diversity training, I talk about individuals in terms of the respectful way to encounter someone. When someone's in a car and a police officer is stopping them, some people out of respect will get out of their car to greet them. Well, over here, that's not done.
That's true.
But if you understand that concept and you understand that that's possible for that to happen, you'll deal with it in a different way. So a bad situation doesn't end up being worse, where there's that communication. Or when an officer is talking to someone in a car, usually taught to put your eyes down and not have direct contact. Well, that person may not be hiding something. He's just showing some respect for authority. So those kinds of, just even little details can make a huge difference in the classroom, on the streets with law enforcement and in our healthcare system. So, and it's important to understand the variations. You cannot appreciate what you don't understand. So I think once you understand that and you allow it to come into your life, it's more enriching. So you don't fear it anymore. And I think the fear factor has been thrown around so much, and especially now, you know, well, he's Muslim, he must be up to something, or she's Arab, she must be up to something. And that's such an archaic way of thinking, but unfortunately that's our reality today. And hopefully through these conversations and engaging the right individuals, we can you know, change that concept. And we have to do what we can in our small corner of the world, and if we can change those things, you know, we look at the bigger picture and hope that, you know, we can reach broader.
And very interesting. Question before we take the break, and then we take a 5 minutes break.
Sure.
Who are your audience? Like, usually, do you target mainstream population, or do you target like Arab American? Because I believe also it goes like both ways.
Sure.
Right. So who are your audience usually?
Absolutely. Well, most of our audience are mainstream, and that, I mean, that's a very broad thing. Everyone is welcome to attend.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, our audience mostly is those people who interact with different kinds of individuals on a daily basis. So we have Arab Americans, we have Hispanic Americans, we have Asian Americans, and I had begun to tell you that it started as Images and Perceptions Diversity Conference of Arab Americans. Now it's Images and Perceptions Diversity Conference engaging the Arab American, African American, Hispanic American, Asian American, Jewish American, and disabilities communities, because every one of those people have to be on the table. And it's not just because it sounds great, it's because through this whole process, the reality struck in that we're not different. We're a lot more the same than we are different. Our challenges are the same. Our needs are the same. Our mission statements are the same. We all have families, we all have homes, we all have kids. So ultimately, as human beings, our challenges are the same. What we want out of life is the same. And so once you create that kind of audience together, talking the same language, there's a aha moment, and people say, wow, you know, yeah, I mean, the Hispanic community has these challenges, and the Arab American community had the same challenges. So instead of fighting each other and fearing each other, let's work together on some common ground and be able to create tools and create, you know, camaraderie and networking to face those challenges and make a difference.
Yeah, actually, that's what I have. One of the quotes here is like, different roads sometimes lead to the same castle, but all what we need is just to really try to know that we are going to the same destination, but again, like, what are we doing to really to be united, and also what else needed in terms of maybe a policy change to make this sort of like mandated or like administered in like schools. يكون شيء هذا شيء مفروض في المدارس، وكمان شو دور الآباء. هذا الشيء رح نحكي مع الأخت سهام بعد الفاصل. ابقوا معنا. أعزائي المشاهدين، عودة على بدء للحوار الشيق مع الأخت والصديقة سهام عوادة جعفر. كنا نحكي أخت سهام عن وضع لازم يكون له عملية تثقيف المجتمع وتثقيف يعني الناس كمان نعيش معهم, to educate them about our contribution يعني. بس في البريك حكيتي انه انا بأيدك 100% ببصم انه احنا كمان كجالية عربية ومسلمة we are split, احنا مش متفقين يعني احنا, وهذا الشيء بزيد من ضعفنا يعني make us really even weak and make us really like will not be really appreciated because people look at us like they are different. So why you are coming to me, ليش تجين لعندي إذا أنتم مش متفقين؟ طب is it always like this? هيك دائما كانت يعني?
You know, I think we have to clean up our own backyard. We really do. Was it like that? كانت؟ لا ما كانت. When I was growing up, يعني I'm Muslim أكيد. I used to go كنت روح الجامعة على طول, and I ended up to be a Sunday school teacher. We were all very united, and we had to actually go to the different churches, to the synagogues. I have a catechism certificate because we were told you cannot be Muslim and you cannot accept Islam without accepting and appreciating all the monolithic religions that came through. So Islam is a culmination of all those religions. And the only difference between, Nabi Muhammad and Jesus Christ is that Nabi Muhammad is the seal of the prophets, and there was not any other prophet that came after him.
Yeah.
So they are both revered and respected equally in Islam. And so again, that's the image and perception concept that goes in. We don't do a good job in expressing those and expressing who we are. And I believe that we have so much territory that we're fighting about that we don't realize what our commonalities are. And within our organizations, within our religious entities, the split is really, it's sad and it's unnecessary, because I think we lived very collectively prior to prior to the revolutions that were happening around the world. And so you have the Sunni and Shia aspect. We never knew about that. We were all together. We were all one unit, one entity, and it was a peaceful time. And anyone that had an issue back then, regardless of what it was everybody's issue, because everybody came to help and everybody came to be part of that. So there was a support system, and we were very much united. And so those things kind of changed. But I think as a community and as a religious community as well, we need to come to a point where we can agree to disagree. We can agree to disagree. You don't have to agree with me for you to be my friend, or for you and I to know that we have the same the same ideals and the same needs and wants and the same mission statement. And that's I think a major part of who we are. If in the immortal words of Bush, if you're not with me, you're against me. Well, obviously, and we've seen that through the years, and we've seen that through politics. That's not a winning concept. And so we need to go to a place where we can say, okay, we're united. And once we do that, I think a lot of our issues and a lot of our cultural issues will dissipate as well. Because divided, united you stand, and divided you fall. And so as long as we are divided on theory, on cultural basis, and on religious basis, we will never find that strength and that support system to move forward together. So that conversation is so important. And when we talk about diversity, well, we need to be inclusive of diversity, absolutely, but we need to accept who we are, culturally speaking, in diversity, and as we are diverse within our communities. And that acceptance has to happen first. And reverse cultural competence is so important. We want people to understand who we are, but we need to understand our environment and our landscape and be part of that process as well. And I think that has to be the ultimate mission for all of us. Whether we're an organization, whether we're an individual, or whether we belong to any sector or religious congregation.
And I totally agree with you. The way that
that's a 3-hour conversation, by the way.
But serious. Like the way, our image and how people really see us, really even totally impacted and affected with the way that even we present ourselves. يعني كيف العالم you teach others how to treat you. يعني احنا بنعلم الآخرين كيف يتعاملوا معنا. يعني المصيبة أخت سهام إنه مش بس الخلاف اللي عندنا موجود عندنا هون we are split. كمان الانقسام اللي في الميدل ايست اوكي ما بين سوريا ايران داعش وما بعرف مين كمان really affect us big time, the way that really affecting our image. اختي keep saying we who are we?
Well, you know what, the wish product of who we are is all of us collectively as a community, regardless of who you are or where you come from. Because as a community, you are responsible. You're a responsible citizen of that community. To work, to pay taxes, to make sure you raise your kids well. To keep your surroundings clean, and to be a good person. And so collectively speaking, it is we, regardless of who you are or where you came from. And you know, we all have different ties. I mean, I was born and raised here, but I have ties to Lebanon per se. And you know, I still am emotionally connected to what's happening there. But I also think that ultimately, as we live in this country, and we need to concentrate on making ourselves better here. And I think the concept of what is happening internationally needs to iron itself out. But the way we can change things here is to be part of the landscape, to be part of the journalistic societies, to be part of the media, to lobby in an intellectual way, and to be involved in the political process, to make sure that we're out there and voting, to make sure that our candidates know that we are here and that we are, you know, supporting a platform, and that, you know, we have a voice, and that's how we can change things. So you have to sort of clean up your own backyard and make sure you are involved in that process before you can go to another step. And the only way to change things is to change things within. We have to work within the system and within our own entities to make that change.
And actually, I also want to add something I picked from the conversation with you, which is, I think it's for everybody. It's like two tablets from Siham, Jaafar: appreciation and acceptance. This should be like included our diet, right? So that we can really live in peace and really can appreciate, you know, each other. And we are like organization, parents, educators, whatever you consider yourself, we are responsible for this. And actually, I really appreciate your commitment in this field.
Thank you.
And actually, that will lead me to the final discussion, which is about your common conference, which is like commitment, engagement, empowerment through diversity. I mean, what a theme! So we need really to learn more about this common conference, okay, and who are your guests, and just please, you know, educate us about this theme, commitment,
that's
engagement.
my area. I'd
Yeah,
love to.
So please, yeah.
You have to be committed to want to change things. And you have to engage with other people to learn about them. And once you do those two things, you become empowered to understanding what diversity is and to be able to appreciate it and accept it. You can say, oh, I'm not a prejudiced person. No, oh, of course I appreciate diversity. But unless you have the commitment, the education to do so, then and only then can you empower yourself to be that ambassador on diversity. The conference coming up is going to take place on April 23rd of this year, of course, and we are partnered with the University of Michigan, with the NAACP, and we have a couple of sponsors that actually make this happen. We are 501c3, we're a nonprofit, and our sponsored nonprofit is from the ground on up. But the conversation here is engaging people from different communities, and what we try to do is we try to bring people who are notable, who are well known, and who have a passion for this conversation and for diversity. So they can't just be well known and not really have a platform for this conversation. And through the years, it's been a very successful recipe. Last year, we had Edward James Olmos, who starred in Selena, Miami Vice, Stand and Deliver. So very, very, very noted individual, famous, Hollywood. But his premise and he represented and is the chairperson of We Are One Race. And his conversation was about how we are all connected as human beings. And you can imagine, you know, that conversation. And it was really pertinent. This year, we have some amazing individuals. We've got Martha Reeves, who's from Motown, Martha Reeves and the Vandells. And she had talked about her experiences being African American. And she talked about when they used to tour the different cities, and they were all on buses where the white entertainers were allowed to go into the hotels and sleep, but the black entertainers had to sleep on the bus. She had me in tears when she talked about that. So she's going to be talking about her experiences and where we were, where we're at, and really how far of road we still have to travel to get to where we need to be within that community. Sean Stone is coming in from Los Angeles. Sean Stone is Oliver Stone's son. Oliver Stone is producer-director. He produced Wall Street. He produced National Born Killers. But Sean Stone I think he went to the Middle East to produce a documentary. And during his stay there, he actually converted to Islam. Mm-hmm. And Sean Stone's and Oliver Stone's background is a Jewish background, and also he was baptized. I think his mom is Christian. But I asked him, and I was a little bit weary. But I asked him, well, what made you convert? And he said to me, he says, I take mention with the fact that you said convert. And I says, well, why? He said, because how can I convert if I'm still believing in the same God? He said, Islam is a culmination of of Judaism, of Christianity, and then of Islam. I'm still praying to the same God because He is the same God. So that conversation is going to be amazing. And he comes from a historical background, very well versed, historically speaking, has his facts in place. And so I'm really looking forward to his presentation regarding that. And I think people will be able to walk away with a better understanding of how, what, and where, and why. So that will be very important. We talked about law enforcement as well. Commander David Robinson is going to talk about community policing within diverse communities, and that's so important because there's so many misunderstandings, so many issues that happen. So he's going to talk about the cultural basis.
Which police department?
He's from the Dearborn Police Department.
Dearborn, yeah.
But he has also worked with me on this conference for a couple of years now. So very, very invested on the conversation of diversity. Dr. Clovis Maksoud. Ambassador Clovis Maksoud will enlighten us about what is happening in the Middle East. And I think the conversation is really important and it's pertinent. So he will give us a little better perspective, from an overall perspective as to why things are just so traumatic there. So that conversation will hit some necessary conversations. Richard Bernstein is now the Supreme Court Justice, and he's going to be talking a little bit about the Jewish community as well as the disabilities community. He's the very first Supreme Court Justice who has served and is blind, and so he will be talking to us, about how people who have challenges and disabilities are perceived within society and how they need to be approached. So and we have Michael Reyes, who is a diversity hip hop rap artist. So he talks about diversity, and he talks about challenges, and he talks about inner city challenges and challenges for all cultures, but he does it in sort of a hip hop kind of rapping way. So very interesting and very entertaining. Just this week something went totally viral on the internet, and it was about the dress. There was a dress, and everybody was talking about whether this dress was white and gold or black and blue. And for some reason, something so simple just went viral. They had this report on CNN and all the news stations, and it was about perception, which I thought was very interesting because some people saw the dress as black and blue, and some people saw it as white and gold. And so it was all about what you were looking at, what eyes you were looking through, and what your experiences were telling you about what the colors represented. The dress ultimately was black and blue, but a lot of people said the dress was gold and white, and that was a conversation. Just something simple like that really, struck a conversation about perception and about how we think and what we see, and what we can be seeing is something totally different. I mean, it's the same exact thing, but we can be interpreting it totally different from what somebody else is looking at. The same thing, but with different eyes and different experiences. Maybe
some people, they are color blind. They didn't
that's true.
Absolutely. So maybe they need to really fix their vision. I'm serious. I mean to say this because really, if the ما بدك تشوف, if you don't want to see really that diversity, okay, and if you have a problem. I'm talking about Muslim and Christian. I'm a Muslim, but before that, I'm a Jewish, I'm a Christian, because Muslims just are in my life, in my heart, okay, and that's the way that really we should see it. Yeah, I mean, I the way that you want to see what you want to see, but you know what, you need to see what is really there.
Exactly.
Okay, so again, like, this requires like commitment and also engagement. Yeah, so then you can really see this empowerment, and because that's how the dynamics have changed. You know, you have to be committed before
Exactly. You have to want to.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
and sometimes just like this woman that came in, before really didn't want to, but she had someone to say, you know what, you need to come in, and so she was open to at least listening to the conversation, and so we just have to have an open mind, and we have to listen to the conversation, and you might learn something. You might say, well, I thought about this all this time, but now that I know this, I really have to change my opinion. And it's about education. It's about knowledge. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is everything. And so it's the lack of knowledge that is our challenge within everything that we do. And I think the lack of knowledge of not being unified, of not working together, and not coming on a common ground is a challenge that within our communities we have to really address, and we have to really talk about honestly. And we can't worry about hurting people's feelings if you're not doing your job, if you're not representing what you say you represent for us all. Then you need to be called out, and that's okay, because we need to reinvent ourselves. We need to have change to move forward.
I totally agree with you. Being really passive about this really sophisticated issue will not get us anywhere.
Yeah.
And we have really to be assertive in addressing this issue. I mean,
assertive in a constructive way.
Constructive way, yeah. Well, I mean, commitment, engagement, empowerment through diversity. It seems like it's a mission. So what do you want to achieve, يا سهام? What's your vision? يعني شو حابة تشوفي في المستقبل? When you close your eye like this, you know what? This is what I like to see.
You know what I'd like to see is I'd like to see individuals interacting with one another as human beings, rather than looking at the color of their skin, the slant of their eyes, the color of their hair, because ultimately speaking, if someone has a physical issue, say they have a kidney problem, whether you're white, black, Hispanic, Muslim, Christian, whatever you are, that kidney problem is going to be the same across the board, and you're going to need to have medical attention. So health-wise, nobody discriminates against you as a human being. Your blood flows the same way. Our blood flows the same way. Our eyes work the same way. Our mouths work the same way. They're just in different houses, but they're all the same. So why people be treated or be perceived differently because of their looks? So my mission is to not fix everything. Absolutely not. I don't think that's even humanly possible. But to create the networking and create the conversation across boundaries, and to get those people together that normally would not have been together to talk and to sit down on a platform, because I really believe negotiations, conversation, talking, understanding, sharing different ideas is really more the solution than selling arms and warfare and killing each other. So I think the conversation needs to start on that level, and it needs to spread, whether it's in our communities, in our cities, in our state, or whether it's in government. That conversation has to happen.
And it's needed now.
And it's needed now.
We talk about the conference. يعني أعزائي المشاهدين راح يكون في أسفل الشاشة الويب سايت تاعت الكونفرنس. يعني go search it, browse it, and try to learn something from this initiative that really I believe it's not only the right thing, but also it's really right, to do it. Did I miss anything you want to say?
No, just the website's 3dconsults.com, and there's something to learn and something to understand about everybody. Also, I wanted to mention there's an individual. His name is Karam Sheikh, and he is an ex-Ann Arbor lieutenant police officer who actually does comedy as a Pakistani American.
Oh, that's nice.
And so he'll be joining us too. So there's a little bit, it's not talking heads. It's something that you will enjoy, something that you can interact with, and something that you'll walk away with a different perspective than what you walked in with.
Personally, really, I'm planning to come, and I really want to.
Good, I hope you can come as my guest, absolutely.
Anything you want to say in Arabic language to the parents, للأمهات, للآباء, للمؤسسات إنه
يعني بقول إن الأهالي لازم يحكوا مع الأولاد على طول كل يوم ويوجهون على الطريق المستقيم ويوجهون عن الأشخاص اللي حواليهم ويوجهون إن الإنسان لازم يتعامل مع التاني باحترام وبحب وacceptance. وهيدا يعني إذا هن الأهالي بيعملوا هيدا الشيء كل يوم بفتكر ما بيكون في عنا مشكلة مع الأولاد بيعملوا مثل ما الأهالي بيقولوا لهم. لازم نتحدث مع أولادنا بهالشيء. ومعلش أمرار بتكون صعبة بس معلش in the long run هيدا الشيء يعني بنكسب أولادنا وبنكسب تفكير أولادنا للمستقبل بحيث هن المستقبل تاعنا وهن اللي حيكونوا موجودين بالميديا وبالجورناليزم وبالبوليتكس. so هيدا التفكير لازم يبلش على صغر. وبدي أشكرك كثير على هالقعدة وهالمقابلة.
ألف شكر لك سهام. يعني هم بيحكوا إنه there are always dynamics for change, and I always say like any change really is designed by geniuses and implemented by motivated. But in this situation we have both. We have a genius and we have a motivated. Okay, احنا يعني أنا جدا أشكرك على هذا اللقاء أختي سهام. هو يعني كثير سعيد بإنه فتاة عربية إنه بتكون عند هذا الفيجن، يعني عند هذا الرؤية إنه يكون مجتمع متقارب، مجتمع متفاهم، acceptance and appreciation، نتقبل بعضنا ونفهم بعضنا زي ما احنا بدون عقد. يعني نتمنى لك التوفيق.
شكرا.
ونتمنى كمان نستضيفك بعد الكونفرنس هذا إذا وقتك بسمح.
إن شاء الله.
ألف شكر لك، سعدنا باللقاء معك أختي سهام. ألف شكر لك.
شكرا لك.
أعزائي المشاهدين، دائما الوقت الحلو بيمضي بسرعة، ولكن يعني جينا لنهاية اللقاء هذا. نستودعكم الله وإلى اللقاء في حلقة مقبلة. تصبحون على خير.